Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a very special online event today. It's called Discover Your Roots Through Druid Wisdom. Deepen your identity and expand your connection to the earth through this ancient spiritual path. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and president of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be with you here, getting to explore a really important tradition that's coming to the foreground more and more. And we're going to get to do so with a true leader in this tradition. His name is Philip Carr-Gomm, and he's a psychologist, author, and leader of the Order of the Bards, Ovates, and Druids. And we had one program with Shift. It was really loved by people, and I know that you're going to be excited to hear more from him down the road. So we have a brand new program coming up with him, actually, called Druid Wisdom for Psycho-Spiritual Healing, that we'll share more about towards the end of the hour. So Philip, with that said, welcome back to Shift.
Well, hello, Stephen. I'm delighted to be back again.
Great. Well, I want to dive in because I just have had, after the last conversation with you, I was just really like, wow, Druidry really is such a perfect spiritual practice for our moment where we need to reconnect with the earth and really become better stewards of this planet, a sort of a spirituality that is rooted in the soil and the trees, and that is really quite at home on this planet, not trying to transcend this planet. So really loved our last conversation. So I'd love for you to share a little bit about your backstory, what brought you to this path and really committing to it as a life path.
Well, I was really lucky enough to have met an old chief druid when I was young. First, when I was 11 initially, and then I started training with him when I was 16. So I've been immersed in the tradition for all my life, and I've explored lots of other spiritual systems and paths, and it's a topic that fascinates me. I'm also fascinated in psychology and how psychology and spirituality can meet together and really inform each other. But I've always come back to Druidry, or rather, Druidry has always been there as the kind of core spiritual orientation I have, because of exactly what you say, because of its grounding in the natural world, and because it seems to be a spiritual path that is so responsive to the needs of our times. We're in very challenging times where we really need to reverence and honor the earth, and also have a deeply spiritual perspective, and Druidry does that for me. That's why I've dedicated my life to it, really.
I'd love for you to give a little bit of a background context, a little bit of like some of the roots of how long Druidry's been around, and how it's and some of the orientation just philosophically of like how the spiritual orientation emerges.
Sure, absolutely. Well, it's been around for thousands of years. So originally, the ancient Druids were the pre-Christian indigenous peoples of these lands. They were the priests and the shamans of these lands. When I say these lands, I mean the British Isles, Ireland, Western France, and they. Then, with the coming of Christianity, it was kind of went underground. It was absorbed into some of Christian practices, and it's very interesting to look at the relationship between Christianity and Druidry. You see it epitomized, say, in the Grail legends. And there are many Druids who are Christians. There's a lovely way in which it's not exclusive. It's a very inclusive, broad spiritual approach. And then about 300 years ago, there was a revival period of Druidry where people started to look back and say, hey, our pre-Christian ancestors were rather interesting, and they had this amazing philosophy, and they've gifted us so much. And you had this period of this Druid revival, which has continued to this day. And then towards the end of the last century, there was this tremendous kind of boost and interest to it, because of the environmental crisis and because of the need really in the human psyche to revere the earth and include their spiritual practice in that. So now it's absolutely thriving, and a sort of vibrant community of people of all sorts of different. What's interesting about it, you can have people of different religious persuasions. So you can have Christians, you can have, agnostics, people who are into Hinduism or Buddhism, but Druidry provides a kind of foundation for them as well, and an orientation for them as well.
That's so needed, where we go beyond these singular religious or spiritual identities to sort of really embrace our unity as well. So it's really a great system to help do that. So maybe you can paint the picture a little bit of what does a Druidic ceremony, religious practice look like as when people gather, and then we can go a little bit more into some of the specifics that we want to teach today.
Well, I can describe for you, for instance, for you, that I was at a festival in August in this beautiful countryside in the UK, where we did some ceremonies. And if you can imagine a beautiful woodland glade, great tall, majestic trees, a small fire burning in the center, and you're walking into this clearing, and you sit down, and there are other friendly faces sitting around. You sit on a log or on the moss, sitting around the fire, and somebody picks up a harp, starts to play it. And you're smelling the wood smoke, you're looking up at the sunlight filtering through the trees. And then somebody gives some teaching. And maybe you do a ceremony. And if you slip into a ceremony, somebody suggests that we all stand up and hold hands. And you have that magic, when you stand in a circle and you hold people's hands, it's such a simple gesture, but it says so much. It's about equality because we're all in a circle. It's about connection. It's about community. We're kind of mimicking the shape of the earth, the circle of all humanity. And we tune in to that underlying unity behind and within all things. And we say some prayers, and then gently let go of the hands and sit down. And then, depending on what's happening, whether it's a seasonal festival to celebrate the particular time of year, maybe the autumn equinox that's coming up soon, or the summer solstice, or maybe somebody is getting hand fasted or married, or a baby is being named, or possibly it's a festival of the arts. The arts are a strong feature in Druidry. One of the reasons I like it so much is it's not just about nature. It's about nature and culture. So the art is included within our appreciation as well as nature. So there will be storytelling, music, poetry, and maybe meditation. And then we'll finish again. We'll stand again at the end and just hold hands. So very simple, very, very beautiful in that sense. We'll honor the directions, north, south, east, and west, above us and below us. So we'll honor those directions, and we'll honor the Great Spirit, and we'll leave people free to relate to deity in the way they wish. So some people in that circle will be Christians, and they'll have a sense of, they will be monotheists, if you like. Other people will be goddess worshippers, and they'll believe that there is only one goddess, and it's just her. And then there'll be duotheists who believe in a god and a goddess, polytheists who believe in lots of gods, and then even atheists, in the sense of people who find the concept of gods is just kind of gets in the way and it's too much for them, and they're still spiritual, but they don't want to kind of engage with that because they feel it doesn't work for them. Which I find is lovely, to be in a spiritual practice that doesn't require dogma, doesn't require fixed beliefs, but you can still share that deeply spiritual sense of being in nature and being at one as a community too.
Beautifully described, and I love the spaciousness of that approach. Let's talk a little bit about the focus on ancestry. Last time I think we focused more on trees and the centrality of trees and as a place of worship, but the root system for human root system, and also why this sort of ancestry and roots are so important in Druidry.
Sure. Well, what we know now from medicine, from psychology, is that our sense of who we are is absolutely fundamental to how we feel. How we sense ourselves and feel ourselves as a human being, the degree of self-knowledge and self-awareness we have, affects our physical health, our mental well-being, and of course our spiritual development. So the obvious question is, well, okay, who am I? Well, most of us have a sense of our ancestry, and of course we use the term tree in that. We talk about our family tree. And for a lot of people, when they connect with their roots, they will have a very limited awareness, either because they don't know. For instance, their parents, they may not know their parents, they may be adopted, for instance, or they may only know one side of the family. They may also have a difficult relationship with their parents or their grandparents or one side of the family and so on. So if you imagine that as a tree, there'll just be maybe one or two roots going down, sometimes only one. uh, you know, and so that doesn't bring a great deal of stability. But what Druidry says, what Druidry offers, is a different conception, and it says, okay, first of all, there's a whole bunch of work that we encourage people to do with becoming familiar with their ancestral roots. You know, the kind of stuff that you get by doing DNA tests and exploring your family tree. That's very well known. But that just gives you a certain line of information, if you like. But the other thing we encourage you to do is open not only to your bloodline, but your milk line. And the concept of the milk line is very beautiful, and it goes like this. If you think back on your early childhood and even late childhood as well, those people who influenced you, who made you who you are, and they may not necessarily be genetic ancestors. People have in their family, and you know, one or two outstanding teachers who really helped them enormously when they were young and really helped to influence who they were. Or there were people in just on the within the family who weren't genetically related. And of course, we go back a few generations or one or two generations, and this was a familiar concept. People talked about cousins and aunts and uncles who technically weren't aunts and uncles or cousins in the genetic sense, but they were really close members of the family. So you broaden, and the reason why it's called milk is you have this concept of milk as nourishment. We talk about the milk of human kindness. And in the old days, the wet nurse, the nurse who suckled the baby, it was a very common practice throughout Europe, certainly, and around the world, actually, for babies to be suckled by a different mother to their birth mother. And of course, the bond that the baby had with that mother was huge as well, with the wet nurse. And fostering, again, particularly in Celtic cultures, fostering now for us is a means of last resort. It's when there's no other way that the kid can be looked after. But in the old days, fostering was highly respected and actually encouraged, because the way you grew was to spend time with other families. I guess any of us who are parents know that experience of your son or daughter being brought back home after a weekend with friends, and the other parents saying, hey, your kid's fabulous. They helped with the washing up. They were so nice. And it's almost like you don't recognize your own children, you know. Children behave better with other families, you know. And they really, you know, used this in the old days. So all these refer to this concept of the milk line. And it's a very interesting thing to do, is to just sit down when you've got, you know, an hour to spare, just go back over your life and say, who are the important people in my life? You know, right up till the present day, there can be people now who are influencing you, who you can include in your milk line. And they can even be, you know, spiritual teachers, authors, people who support you and nourish you, so that in that sense, the milk lines. So already your tree is starting to stand more firmly because there's a milk line.
But then the concept there with the milk line that it actually extends back through their ancestry as well. So in a way, by creating that intimate bond, you're actually accessing that whole lineage.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a couple of years ago, I was reading the diaries of my grandfather, and I came across his reference to a cousin. And he was talking about how he played tennis so often with his cousin and how he was so fond of him. And his cousin was one of the presidents of Ireland. And I became terribly excited because I thought, wow, this is incredible. It's like I had no idea a president of Ireland was in our bloodline, you know. In the end, when I did more research, I discovered he was using the term cousin in the old-fashioned sense of somebody who's in our milk line. This guy was in our milk line, not in the bloodline, but he was still really, really important to our family. And you know, so my old Druid teacher, my dad knew him. You know, I knew him from the age of 11. He's in my milk line. And the president of Ireland is too. You know, all these people going back, the previous generations, are in the milk line. So that's a very beautiful concept, but it gets even more interesting when you say, well, hang on a minute, I believe in reincarnation. Now, of course, not everybody does, but Most Druids believe in reincarnation, but you don't have to, because you don't have to. There's no rigid dogma or belief system in Druidry, but most people do, and the ancient Druids certainly did. So then you have another whole network of roots. So you're starting to see the roots, traveling down into the soil. And the other thing we know about roots is that they're not isolated. The wonderful work they've done in forestry now, where they used to plant trees, they used to plant saplings, and they used to wash the roots of the trees and plant them in clean soil, so they were completely unconnected to anything else. And there was a very high mortality rate of these young saplings. And then some wonderful work has been done showing that actually roots all connect with each other. There's a whole community going on down there. And, with the mycelial connections and the mushrooms and the fungi that all connect and help. It's a community. So it's like we're not separate, just as in the spiritual world, we're not separate, where there's unity in the spiritual domain. So there's unity at every level of reality. So there's a level in our past as well of community, not of ourselves as isolated beings. So we're not just trying to trace singular fine threads. We're trying to really plug into this wonderful, rich community that is in our past and supports who we are and tells us who we are.
Well, so it sounds like an amazing antidote for today's loneliness epidemic and the problems with really this focus on individualism and nuclear family, that you lose some of that wider sense of connection. So really
Totally.
beautiful. Is there a process of sort of formalizing, like, oh, you are now my milk brother, my milk sister, that there's like that you're sort of a mutual recognition or honoring somehow of entering into this milk line relationship with people?
Well, there isn't any kind of particular ceremony or formal sort of process, but what we learn in the spiritual path is awareness is the key, isn't it? It's like once you recognize that, once you realize there's this beautiful concept in Celtic tradition of the anamkara, the soul friend. This is the friend who can mentor you or not, just be with you, not judge you, just really support you, and you mutually nourish and support each other, the soul friend. And when you can both recognize that and look into each other's eyes and say, thank you, I really honor you for that, and I'm so, so happy that you're in my life. That's a very beautiful moment. And we encourage that in our trainings and work.
So what happens as a result of this sort of embracing a wider root system and ancestral milk lines and sort of past lives as well? How does that shift people's relationship with how they're living their life?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about the path of self-knowledge is that to begin with, it can seem like you're self-preoccupied because you're working on yourself, you're exploring your connections and you're deepening your self-knowledge and all the rest of it. But at a certain point, what happens is you develop sufficient stability, sufficient clarity that you can let go of a concern for yourself. You can still be capable of functioning within the vessel of the personality and being fully present in the here and now and fully human and all the rest of it. But you can also let go of that self-concern, if you like, and be of value in the world and give to the world and fulfill your mission if you sense you have some sense of purpose or mission, or you just want to love the world and love nature. And then what happens is your relationship to other people and to nature just gently starts to transform and shift, and there's more clarity in it, and you're able to connect more and to be inspired. As long as you're feeling like you have unresolved material in your psyche, as long as you're feeling you don't kind of quite know who you are, you don't feel solid, or you don't have foundations, then a part of your psychological and psychic energy is bound up in kind of resolving that. But once you've done that work, you can connect with the world of nature and with other people in a kind of clear, open way that's just really very beautiful and opens you up to a whole new phase of your life, really.
I wonder if we can expand this now to beyond the human ancestry and connections to some of the nature-based connections and how we can kind of deepen our root system there.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, we tend to, unfortunately, we tend to be disconnected from the natural world. We kind of live in boxes, and I know these boxes are very useful. I'm sitting in front of a little box talking to you, and you're on the other side of the world in front of another little box talking to me, and that's wonderful. And you know, I'm sitting in the bigger box of my house, and if I need to go somewhere, I'll get in the metal box of the car. So the boxes are useful, but we have to learn how to get out of those boxes, go out into the natural world. And what we discover as we clarify our self-understanding and we start to work in this way is that we start to sense all of nature as alive. So when we approach a tree or an animal, there's a kind of depth of experience where we are approaching a being, not just this perception of a creature or a plant, but something so much more. And that's really the work we do with plants and animals. In fact, all of natural features, so stones and rivers and springs and seas, we work in this way with all these features. But in particular, you know, we work with plants and animals. And there we discover that they exist in the inner world as well as the outer world, because one of the mysteries of being a human being, I guess, is that we exist in this kind of concrete physical form, but we also have an inner world and an inner being, the soul, if you like. And we're not alone in there. So that when we drop into this inner world, it's not like we're dropping into an isolated, separate world. We're actually dropping into a world that is full of plants and animals too, that exist in this inner world. And so we deepen our relationship with them.
Beautiful. And I know that one of the subjects that's very central to a lot of shamanic lineages, indigenous lineages, has to do with power animals. And I wonder if you can share a little bit about how Druidry sees this concept of power animals or plants and trees that you can access that have particular personal meaning for you.
Well, there's a way in which, you know, the way each person has a particular quality. When, you know, the reason we fall in love with a particular person, it may be triggered by how, you know, their sense of humor and how they look and all the rest of it. But at some level, we're falling in love with their uniqueness, their really special energy or quality of being. And the reason we might feel drawn to, say, dogs or cats or a particular kind of animal is because we're attracted to the particularity, the particular energy, if you want to put it in that way, the particular quality that they are manifesting, their gift to the world. So it's easy to then understand how you could understand that as a gift. So you could say to your partner, the gift that you bring to me is who you are. And the gift this animal brings to me is this very particular thing. And we don't want to tie it down with too many words or rational concepts, because it's bigger than that. And then shift the word gift to medicine, to healing, to power. There's a particular power we get. And you see, the ancients knew that. I mean, in the old days, if you look at the old medicine, you'll see that animals were included in that. And we know, I mean, the studies that have been done, for instance, with the elderly, show that if people keep dogs or cats, they tend to live longer. And this fascinating thing is, like, they're not isolated. They've got another being, a living, breathing being that they're sharing their lives with and sharing their energy with. And so there's a way in which each creature has gifts for us, has energies for us. And it's not about us just taking these, it's about giving too. It's about relationship. So we learn in Druidry how to develop relationship with animals and plants. And then their energy can enrich us. And it's a mutually beneficial relationship.
I love that. It's beautifully described. I wonder if you can share a little bit about how we can also get more connected to the specific place that we live, and that we're really rooted in a deeper way in our time and place.
Yeah, exactly. Because we kind of spiral down from outside of time and space into our physical bodies, into our incarnation as little children. And we grow up in a certain place, and then we maybe move from one place to another. But all the time, we're in relationship to place. And what Druidry says is that place has geographical features, but it has a spirit too. And we know that when we come to certain places, we can feel that spirit of place, and it can be really strong. All of the earth is sacred, and everywhere there's spirit. But some places seem to be really special, have particular kinds of energies flowing through them, a bit like the way the physical body, all of the body is sacred, and then energy flows in different ways through different parts of the body. So it's the same thing with the planet. And we can sometimes feel, really drawn to a particular spot. And we can learn how to open to the energies of that place, to feed ourselves at a subtle level, if you like, to be inspired, to bring us energy. And so that's an important factor in our lives and who we are. Just as the spirit of time is. So you have the spirit of place that we honor. And of course, we're also born into a particular time. And so we also honor the spirit of time. Being born now at this time in the story of humanity is very different context, a different kind of atmosphere to being born, say, in the 18th century or in 5000 BC. I mean, just very different kind of agendas going on, different energies playing on through humanity and so on. And so it's about opening to the gifts that the spirit of place and the spirit of time has for us, so that we can feel more at home, and so that we can express ourselves more fully, more creatively.
Beautiful. Well, I love listening to you and receiving this wisdom, and I also want to give you an opportunity to take us on a little bit of an experiential journey as well. So I think that would be a great time for that to do that right now.
Okay. Well, you asked about how a Druid ceremony would be, and I mentioned this idea of this sacred grove, this clearing. Well, this is where we meet. This is where we do ceremonies, and what I'm going to suggest is that you can either just listen to me and as if I'm telling a story, or you can close your eyes. It's entirely up to you. But you might like to just imagine that you're finding yourself coming into a clearing in the forest, and you look around and just feel drawn. We were talking about the spirit of place, and that goes right down to the micro level, where when you come into a clearing in the forest, it's a very interesting thing to do in reality, is to walk around. Where do I feel the most comfortable? And you find yourself homing in on a particular spot in that clearing, and there might be a little mossy log or stone that's dry and that you can sit on, or you might sit on the earth herself, and you tune in. And the first thing you might like to do is just tune into the smell here, the smell of the forest, this very particular smell. And we know that the trees exude these essential oils, which are so good for us. All the science tells us this. They're so good for us as we breathe them in, and tuning into the earth and just letting all our cares and troubles drop into the earth, taking in a big deep breath, and then sighing as we allow ourselves to feel our weight on the earth, to feel gravity as a friend in a way, not to resist it, just to allow ourselves just to be here on this earth. The earth is supporting us. We take in another deep breath. Yes. We can feel the healing, stabilizing energy of the earth. Around us, the trees. And we can sense the roots of these trees deep in the earth around us. You might even be able to sense those roots drawing the water up, the moisture through the earth up into their trunks. And you sense these trees surrounding you as beings, as brothers and sisters, as beautiful spirits who are so powerful and yet so still and so peaceful. And you can just open to the protection and the peace and the stability that they offer. Breathing in all the wonderful oils that they exude, the beautiful perfume of the trees. looking up into the boughs and branches and seeing their leaves, seeing the sunlight filtering through the leaves, blue sky above, and breathing in deeply. And as you breathe in, you feel the energy of the sky meeting the energy of the earth within the center of your being. And you may be somebody who sees things very clearly in your inner eye, or you may be someone who doesn't really see very much, but you can just feel. It doesn't matter. Either way is absolutely fine. But in this time together, these few moments, I'm going to introduce you just to 3 of the sacred animals of the Druid tradition. Just imagine, just across from you on a branch, a raven flies down. It's a beautiful raven. And this bird, you look at this bird, and this bird in the Druid tradition brings initiation, protection, deep healing, deep healing. And you feel this connection with this raven, and maybe you'll be able to meet again, but the raven just flies off, and leaving you with this warm feeling of having made a connection. And then you look downwards, and there in the clearing, sitting there, is a little blackbird sitting on a lower branch. And you hear the blackbird's song. You see her golden beak. And this beautiful song. And you know that this song is opening you to be able to sing the song of your soul. The blackbird is showing you that you will be able to open your heart and sing the song of your soul. And again, the blackbird flies away. And just coming out into the clearing, there's a really good feeling of complete safety as this bear comes into the clearing. This bear, sacred to the Druids, symbol of primal power, of sovereignty, of the marriage of intuition and instinct. And the bear sits quietly, just sits quietly in the corner. This strong sense that this bear can bring a sense of real strength to you. Real strength married with a profound connection to your intuition. And again, it's possible that the bear leaves a gift. There's some kind of jewel that he leaves on the ground, a little piece of gold work on the ground, and just withdraws into the forest. And you go over and you pick up this beautiful piece of gold, this piece of jewelry, touching it to your heart if it feels right to do that. A gift from Arsht, the bear god. May the blessings of the bear, the blackbird, and the raven be with you. In feeling you've made a deep connection with these animals, knowing that you can always return to this sacred clearing in the woods, you place your hands on the earth now, placing in your imagination, you sense your palms touching the earth and you feel your love of the earth. May the earth be blessed. May the land be blessed. You then bring your palms up to your heart, and you might like to do this physically, bringing your palms to your heart, asking, may my life be blessed. May all life be blessed. And as you do this, you start to feel the warmth from your palms in your body. You start to become aware of your body. As you become aware of your body, your awareness of the sacred grove begins to fade. As you become aware of being seated in front of your screen, fully present here and now. And when you feel ready, you open your eyes.
That's a lovely visualization. What do you recommend doing with whatever jewel or symbol that came?
Well, I talked about the medicine, the gift, and the gift that these animals can sometimes bring. And sometimes it works symbolically. It works through these gifts, and you can just the trick is not to overthink these things. So you imagine holding it. You might want to imagine that it's under your pillow at night, but you basically let go of it. You allow the moment to live just in and of itself, and then it does its magic at the subtle level, if you like. And it was interesting because I chose those three animals when I was tuning into the conversation we were going to have, Steve. I asked for three animals from the Druid Animal Oracle to show me what the benefits of taking this course, the gifts that would come from actually following this course that I'll be offering. And these three cards came to me, and the first one was the Raven, which is the card that symbolizes initiation. And of course, my experience of doing these courses is they are like an initiation from the very beginning. Like the first session is a new beginning. And in fact, we're starting the beginning of the Druid year and the Celtic New Year starting at Samhain, 31st of October, which opens into a new phase. So that's very fitting. And it also symbolizes deep healing, the very deepest level, at the psychospiritual level, which is, again, a main orientation of the course. And then I asked for a second card, and I got the Earth Dragon. And the Earth Dragon there, you see, he's curled around a hoard of treasure. There are all sorts of interesting gold cups and things. And there are 4 dragons in the Druid tradition, and they symbolize these primal energies that exist at a spiritual and psychological level: earth, air, fire, and water. We'll be going into this in detail in the course. And it was interesting when I was doing the meditation then, it felt appropriate perhaps not to invoke a dragon at this stage. We'll be doing that in the 6th
Save the
session.
dragons for later.
Yes, but save the dragons for later, maybe as an introductory thing. So the blackbird came instead, and the blackbird is a wonderful symbol of the beginning of the path, singing the song of the soul, really opening up to one's creativity, which is what the course is designed to do as well. And then the third card I got was the bear, and of course this is where King Arthur, the origin of that word is ART, which is pronounced Arsht, and he's the hero, the strong bear. So symbolizes sovereignty. This concept of opening to your sovereignty, your true dignity and stature as a human soul and human being. But also, of course, primarily strong and deeply in touch with instincts, but also with intuition, because he's connected with the great bear, the pole star, which is symbolic of our intuition. So an interesting set of animals for us.
So I would, to extrapolate a bit, it sounds like the bear would sort of symbolize what people might get out of taking that journey with you in some ways, is that the gift is sort of a symbol of, this is like you've gone through the initiation and now you're coming out the other side.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. So that might be one way to interpret or work with what has come. Share a little bit more. So you're working with an oracle deck there. Maybe a little bit more about the function of oracles within the tradition and how that's part of the accessing of deeper symbolism and roots.
Yeah, yeah. We'll be working with the Druid Animal Oracle and the Druid Plant Oracle, which I and my partner Stephanie have created. And this draws on the ancient wisdom and folklore of these lands, which is so full of meaning and color and wisdom. And there's a way in which oracles were used by the ancient Druids, we know that, and also, of course, by contemporary Druids, because one of the key ideas in spirituality is that time is uh, elastic. It's not. We tend to think of time as being linear, but once we start to open up to spiritual practice, we know that time isn't linear. That actually we can go beneath the surface of the stream. It's like there's the everyday flow of events, which are like the surface of the river, but we can drop down and discern the currents that are there. So it's not so much about predicting the future in a kind of simplistic way. It's about saying, okay, there's this flow of events that I seem to be that seem to be carrying me along in my life. But what are the deeper currents at work? How can I drop beneath the surface? And oracles help you drop beneath the surface and look at some of the dynamics to give you insights into that. So
Hmm.
you are then empowered to make changes if you need to and want to.
It's fascinating. And I know you've also mentioned several times the psychological dimensions, and you've studied psychology as well. I know
Mm.
just briefly, it might be interesting to just how you see the complementarity of Druidry as a system with modern psychology.
Yeah, absolutely. So the, essentially, you can boil it down to the fact that we have a soul and a personality. Personality we know about. That's the one we do on the personality, find out about with the personality test and what our partners will remind us of. And so there's a particular kind of character we have, personality, everyday self. Some people call it the ego, but you know, it gets, let's keep it simple, personality. And we need that to function in the everyday world. But as we progress along the path, we discover that there's this kind of inner light, this inner being that's different in some way, which is the soul. And so spiritual work and psychological work, I think, a spiritual psychological work involves just working out the relationship between the two and asking the question, how can my soul shine through my personality? I don't want to get rid of my personality because then I wouldn't be able to function in the world. It's just like I don't want to get rid of my body because I need it as a vehicle in this life. I need my personality as a vehicle, but I need to get to know about it. And this is where psychology comes in. This is why I like psychosynthesis, because it's a spiritual psychology and it takes all of this into account. And it says, you don't want to just escape from your personality. You want to learn about it, discover its richness, iron out some of the kinks and problems in it, and clarify it, get to know it, and that includes all that shadow work that we hear people talking about and so on. Get to know, so it can become an even better vessel for the soul. It's as if the soul is the sun and the personality is like the reflection of the sun on water. And self-realization is really just a question of the sun and the reflection becoming one. So allowing that soul to shine through the personality. And that's why I think psychological work is important. If you only do spiritual work, there are real dangers. There are dangers of inflation where you start to kind of disconnect from your personality. And that's when you get all the strange kind of phenomenon that can occur in cults and in spirit. You can say, well, they were so spiritual. How come they behaved in that way? Well, maybe this is the reason that they haven't done the psychological work.
I just love your wisdom. It's so integrated and whole and open-hearted and grounded. It's really a testament to the power of this path. I want to spend some time now talking about your upcoming program because it's a remarkable way to really receive this wisdom transmission, to take in the practices and really reorient our spiritual work in a way that doesn't exclude anything we've done. It's really about a deepening of a root system and a deepening of healing using this wisdom. So Philip has agreed to teach a brand new program for Shift. It's called Druid Wisdom for Psycho-Spiritual Healing. Deepen your connection to the natural world through this ancient tradition to cultivate authenticity, joy, and balance. You can find it at the URL druidrywisdom.com. That's Druidry wisdom.com, druidrywisdom.com. It's a 7-week program. There are no prerequisites. You don't have to have had any background or training or exposure to this. It's really for those who are new and also folks who want to deepen, who have already had some exposure and practice as well. So, Philip, I'd love for you to share some of your intentions for this program, and then we'll go through the modules to get a little preview of what's coming.
Mm. Well, really, I mean, my intention for this program is to help people uncover and work with and express these sort of three aspects of the self that we work with in Druidry, which is the singer, the shaman, and the sage. And what I mean by that is the singer is the person, the creative self inside that wants to sing the song of their soul, that wants to be fully creative, just to express themselves freely. And we all know that feeling, and we all know how we can often feel blocked, or somehow we're not fully giving of our all, as it were. How can I free myself to be my fully creative self? And the shaman within us, if you like, is that part of us that is curious, that wants to voyage in the other world, that wants to learn new things, and wants to be able to be of use, to be able to heal and to help other people in the world, the shaman. And then the sage is the part of us that wants to be wise, that again wants to help and heal. They all want to help. All these three levels, it's quite interesting. In a sense, it's all one. Is how can I help other people shine? How can I be of value in the world? How can I give of my love and wisdom to other people? And so the singer, shaman, and sage. So that's the general intention of the whole course, really.
Love it. So module 1 is called Connect with the Power Hidden in the Hills to draw life force into your body for healing and regeneration.
Well, that's going to be about the way the land has a particular kind of energy. You know, we've heard about ley lines. In Druidry, we sometimes talk about dragon lines, these lines of energy and force, and the particularly different nature of force in different places. And then all the mythology and the folklore surrounding it, the stories of fairies, of the She in the hollows of the hills, and so on. So we'll be working with that. How can we work with the land and with the earth to strengthen our life force?
Module 2, Journey to the Oldest Animals to develop your sensitivity to the other world.
We'll be working with the old stories in these modules and using them as teaching stories, and then going into exercises to develop what they are teaching. And so in Druidry, we have 8 ways of working with animals. And so we'll go into how we can actually explore and make use of these 8 ways of working.
Module 3, Attune yourself to the moon's phases for profound healing.
So again, I guess we all know of how important the moon is and how variable it is from the full moon, how we feel at a full moon to a dark moon and so on. And so we're going to be working with the moon, and the moon holds a very special place of reverence within the Druid tradition. We're going to be working with the salmon as well, and the Irish story of Finn McCool, and what it has to teach us as well.
Module 4, Welcome the trees as your guides and guardians.
Well, there we're going to be, I mean, a druid means tree sage is the literal meaning of the word druid. And trees are really at the heart of the druid tradition. And they have so much teaching to give us. And we can work with them at an energetic level for our own physical healing, but also at a psycho-spiritual level for our own mental health and well-being, and also for our spiritual development. We'll be going into that in detail.
Module 5, Drink from the source to accomplish your life goals.
Well, here, this concept of the source is so powerful in Druidry. It connects the stories of the Grail and the Grail tradition, which is so magical and beautiful. And they go right back to the cauldron of the goddess. The cauldron, and we'll be looking at what does the goddess place in the cauldron, the plants that she places in the cauldron to create this elixir that we can drink from.
Module 6, Work with dragons as allies to fulfill your potential and cultivate a life of power and beauty. So we finally get the dragons now.
Yeah, you get the dragons. You've had the sufficient preparation, so you get the dragons. And of course, dragons are so interesting because you see them in, we're familiar with them from, China and the Far East. And then you look at Europe and you think, hang on a minute, there are dragons there going way back. Where do those dragons come from? And so there's a whole teaching around that in Druidry, around the way it relates to the sort of primal energies of earth, air, fire, and water that exist out there and also within us too, and how we can harness this for our own benefit.
So it kind of emerged as a universal archetype of that for humanity, it
Yeah.
sounds like. Module 7, balance the energies of the earth and sun within you for vitality and healing.
Mm. Well, we have this basic relationship with the earth and all it can offer us. And then, of course, the sun we know is a tremendous source of uh, energy at a spiritual as well as a physical level. And what happens when sun and earth unite within us? Such a tremendous release of power and creation of stability as well for us. So we'll be working with that.
What a beautiful program, and just such a gift to be able to receive this ancient lineage system through you and through also your integration with modern psychology as well. I think really gives it a unique flavor. So again, the whole program is laid out in detail at druidrywisdom.com. And in addition to the 7 90-minute live sessions with Philip, which is going to include interactive time, question and answer time, you also get recordings for every session, both video and audio, which is a great way to go back and study again or relearn practices. You also get word for word transcripts to work with, study, and highlight, as well as weekly exercises for home. There's a Facebook community that really creates a sense of community around the world for this teachings, and a small group time to connect with other participants. And on the page at druidrywisdom.com, you'll also see a number of extra bonuses that are designed to enhance your journey. There's an audiobook sample with Philip called Druid Craft. Want to share a little bit about that audiobook sample?
Yeah, sure. Druidcraft is looking at Wicca and Druidry, so the two great kind of streams of um, pagan tradition in the in the British Isles and which have spread around the world now are Wicca and Druidry, and they're very interesting. They're like a brother and sister or cousins. Lots of similarities, and then certain particular differences as well. And so this book really explores that, and it explores that through story, through teaching, and through history, and then through practice as well. So every chapter has a little story to evoke the ideas, and then some history to give you some background, and then some practice that you can do. And so I recorded that with my daughter actually, and she and I talk you through that book.
Hmm. That's great. That's also family lineage transmission there. So the second bonus I want to draw folks' attention to is called Clothed with Flowers. It's an audio meditation with Philip. Philip, you want to share more about that?
Yes, actually, I do that with Sophia as well, with her too. That's a healing meditation that works with the energies of the plants that we use in Druidry. And it's got the most beautiful music composed by a chap called Charlie Roscoe using the golden mean. So the music is encoded with the golden mean. It's very, very beautiful. And that's playing through the meditation. And then I introduce it, and then we move into the voice of my daughter Sophia, and she reads an ancient prayer to the goddess, uh, and then goes into the healing qualities of certain plants. And the idea is you just relax and allow these healing qualities to kind of work with you.
Hmm.
It's a very soothing meditation. It's beautiful.
No, it sounds beautiful. And there's one final bonus, which is a lovely way to dive into the plant spirit side of things. It's a video teaching with Philip and Emma Fitchett, who's also taught for Shift. It's on plant spirit teachings. This is your special bonus you get if you sign up today by midnight, which we like to do as a little way to encourage you to take the time now to tune in, read through the page. And if you get a sense that this is the right next step for you, then you get an extra bonus for signing up right away. So it's called Plant Spirit Teachings. And Philip, you want to share a little bit more about that? So
Yeah,
teachings with Emma?
yeah, absolutely. Well, Emma and I are just going to be diving in to a number of plants. We'll cover what is meant by plant spirit teachings, to get an overview of this kind of particular way of working with plants, and then we'll dive in deep for an exploration around 3 of the plants, so that people can really work with those and come away with some specific techniques and knowledge.
Well, what a beautiful program, and that's a great reason to sign up right away, the Plant Spirit Teachings with Philip and Emma. So we've kept the investment for this program very accessible. It's just 3 payments of $128, so you save 10% when you pay in full with 1 payment of $349. The course is going to start October 31st on Samhain, which is auspicious timing for the Druidic calendar, and it's going to run Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And even if you can't make the live times, you can get the still get the full value with the recordings and the transcripts in the community as well. So I particularly want to draw attention to some of the testimonials from Philip's previous course at Shift. The course helped me create new habits, more alert, and notice so much more. It's a rare opportunity to study magic with a well-known magician who's also a psychologist. Feel more embodied, more in tune with myself. This has been amazing and life-changing for me. It has shifted something deep within and given me tools to deal with stress at all levels and on a daily basis. So a lot of great testimonials from Philip's first program at Shift, and I know this is just going to be totally the next level. So thank you so much, Philip, for creating this program and partnering with us. And again, all the details for folks are at druidrywisdom.com, druidrywisdom.com. So, Philip, we have a few minutes left, and just anything that's still on your heart you haven't shared, and an invitation to join for folks to join you in this new program on Druid wisdom for psycho-spiritual healing.
Well, maybe this, which is that, in the old days, this kind of teaching and wisdom was conveyed orally. It was the oral tradition, from mouth to ear, as they said, in this ancient tradition. And then, of course, we entered the era of the printed word, and spiritual teaching was conveyed in books. And that's how it's been for a long time. And rather interestingly, we have a turn of the spiral now, thanks to the internet, where the old ways of the oral tradition have come back. And so we can benefit again in exactly the same way as our ancestors did, because there is a power in the spoken word that can't be conveyed in writing. A great deal can be conveyed on the printed page, but there's something about the spoken word that conveys so much more. It's magical. This is where we get the concept of the spell. The spell is literally using language in a certain way to convey, because with the spoken word comes energy, and that's the concept of transmission, this whole thing of using the concept of transmission. So what's great about these online courses is that one can work with the spoken word. That's why I love them, I think, is that there's a real possibility for transformation because we're working in this way. But in addition, we also have, the transcripts and the printed material and book references and so on to kind of bolster, what we're our learning. But primarily, we're working in this magical realm with the spoken word. And so that's why I love teaching in this way. And that's why I'm very much looking forward to teaching this course.
Well, your passion is very evident, and it's going to be a real blessing for everyone who chooses to join. And again, the program is called Druid Wisdom for Psycho-Spiritual Healing. Deepen your connection to the natural world through this ancient tradition to cultivate authenticity, joy, and balance. And it's all laid out in detail at druidrywisdom.com. And if you get signed up by midnight tonight, you're going to get that special bonus with Philip and Emma that's all on the plant spirit teachings. So, Philip, I really love being with you. I just feel like there's such an emanation of wisdom, a grounded wisdom from you, and it's a testament to your depth of your exploration and study and teaching of this path. So thank you for this time, and thank you all for joining. And if you'd like to go further, you're warmly welcome to do so at druidrywisdom.com.
Thank you, Stephen. Bless you.